dividing polynomials with long division, okay? So it's very important. You can also use synthetic division to divide polynomials. This is just an alternative way of doing so. And there's a very important thing to recognize here is when you start this. This can become kind of overwhelming, but the important thing is that you understand it's the same thing over and over again. The steps are very, very repetitive. It's just a matter of getting started, okay? So the first thing we want to look at, this guy is the main person we're going to pay close attention to. This plus 4 is just going to be a byproduct, meaning he has no real influence on what I'm going to need to solve the problem in terms of what goes up here. It's just going to be something I have to multiply each time. And you will understand what I'm talking about when I get started here. So the first thing I like to do is when I start a problem, I make sure that I have all the terms, 3, 2, 1, 0, which both of them do. So I'm starting out with some nice problems here. And then I look at this front term and I want to see the front term of the polynomial I'm dividing. So I'm going to take n times what would give me n to the third, okay? Take a moment. In fact, take a moment right now and pause the video and see if you can do these two problems on your own. All right, so let's get back to it. So we know that n times n squared gives me n to the third. So that's going to be the term that goes right there. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I am now going to multiply. So I'm going to take n squared times this top dog right up front, and it's going to go right underneath the n to the third. So I'm going to take, this is going to be n to the third. So n squared times n is n to the third. I'll draw that graphic so that you can see that. Whoop. All right. Now this is what I meant from the beginning, is now I'm going to multiply the 4 times n squared. So I'm going to take 4 times n squared, and that's going to go right there, okay? So this n squared, I chose that because I had to get n to the third. The times 4 is just, again, the byproduct, or just I have to take both of the terms by the same number. So the 4n squared is going to go right there, okay? Now, what I got to do is I got to make it its opposite, okay? So I just got to switch these signs real fast. That's why I didn't put a plus there. I just leave it open if it's positive because I'm eventually going to switch it. I add down, and so you'll notice that these cross out, and then I add these down and I get negative 5 n squared, and then I drag this down. All right, now I start the whole process over again. So now I'm going to say, all right, go back to my top dog. N times what is going to give me negative 5n squared? And the answer to that is negative 5n. All right, so the negative 5n is going to go right next to my other one I found earlier. And now I'm going to do the exact same process again. I'm going to take the negative 5n times n, all right, which I'm going to put right below here. So that would be, let's see, negative 5n squared. You'll know that you did the right step because these are going to be exactly the same, okay? And then we got negative 5n times 4, which would be negative 20n. All right, now what I have to do is I have to switch the signs. So I'm going to switch the signs. Instead of being negatives, they're now positives. And then I'm going to add down. And really, this is the whole key to long division, is that you'll notice that this term's eliminated. And then I add down and I have 3n. Bring this down, it's going to be plus 21. All right, now I'm going to keep working my way around. So let's see, I just do the exact same process over again. N times what? Go back to my front guy here. That would equal 3n, and your answer is 3. So that would be plus 3 goes right there. And then I do the process again. So 3 times n is 3n, and 3 times 4 is 12. And then again, I take the opposites of those. So I make them switch their signs, add down, and I got 9. All right, so the remainder right here, you'll notice that I can't take n times anything to equal 9, so I know that I'm finished with the problem. And so my answer is n squared minus 5n plus 3, and then because it's a positive 9, I'm going to have plus 9 over the divisor, which is n plus 4, okay? And the reason for this, and let me talk about this real fast in a really maybe easier way of understanding it. If I took 15 divided by 9, which is an improper fraction, and I want to write it as a mixed number, it's a little bit easier than doing the whole long division thing. How many times does 9 go into 15? Well, 1 time. How much is left over? Well, 6 is the remainder, would be the remainder if I took 9 away from 15. And then you'll notice I have to put it underneath the divisor, okay? So the 6 is the remainder divided by the 9, which is the same thing I did here. I had a remainder of 9, and it just so happened, well, the divisor is n plus 4, so I'm going to put it right there, okay? All right, so I'm going to work this one maybe a little bit quicker, but again, take a moment, press pause, see if you can work through the steps before I do them. And let's do it. Okay, I'm going to mark my top guy here, this n, just so I'm aware. If I ever feel lost, I already got to go back to him. All right, so let's do it. N times what is going to give me n to the third? Because that's that first one here. Well, it's going to be n squared. N squared. So that's what's going to go right up here. Okay, so then I'm going to take n squared times n, which would be n to the third. Okay, and then again, got to remember, n squared times 9 is 9n squared. And again, I left these two. They're both positive, but I know from my practice here that I'm going to switch the signs here, and they're both going to become negative. All right, then I add down, and I get 8n squared. Drop this down here, and I get plus 71n. Okay? All right, so now, again, I'm kind of feeling like, what's my next step? Oh, go back to your blue arrow right here. N times what would give me this guy, 8n squared? Well, in this case, that would be 8n. All right, so we got plus 8n. And then we go through the same process again. 8n times n would be 8n squared. 8n times 9 is 72n, and then we switch them to their opposite signs, din, din, and then we get 0, and then that would be, let's see, negative 1n, and then I'm going to drop down the negative 8. All right, working right along here. Go back to my blue arrow. N times what would give me negative 1n? The answer is negative 1, and so that goes right up here. And then I'm going to do the same process again. Negative 1 times n is negative 1n. Negative 1 times 9 is negative 9. Don't forget to switch the signs, all right, which will eliminate these together. And so negative 8 plus 9 is 1. All right, so my answer is n squared plus 8n minus 1 plus the remainder of 1 over the divisor, which is n plus 9. All right, so hopefully this helped you out with the long division. We'll do more together, and have a great evening.